And good day, and welcome to the latest edition of the 941 Sports Zone, episode number 11. The high school regular season is over. The playoffs have begun with the small schools. We'll be also looking at college football. What a brutal weekend for the ACC as far as the playoff goes. The first playoff projections come out on Tuesday night. Tuesday's the trade deadline in the NFL. We got a lot to talk about. I'm, of course, Rich Spitz-Spetaleri, joined by John, ready for the playoffs, Masoni.
Ready.
I guess you've given up on Vandy now?
Away. What's that?
I guess you've given up on Vandy now?
Yeah, for now. I mean, it was a nice ride. It's like that kind of thing. But I still think they could be the fly in the ointment for some of these true blue SEC teams. We'll see how that turns out, though. I still like the makeup of the team, but give them a break. We give them a break for a week.
All right, we have a very special guest joining us, Xavier McKnight of ABC 7. He hosts Friday Night Game Night. He's also the sports director there. Xavier, thanks for taking the time.
Absolutely, gentlemen. Thank you for having me here today.
Xavier, of course, was part of our preseason special that we did over in Venice, so certainly do appreciate his knowledge, and he's going to bring a lot to the table today. Of course, the 941 Sports Zone brought to you by the good folks at Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida, locally owned and nationally backed, delivering exceptional roofing for homes and businesses throughout the Gulf Coast. The number to call, 941-251-4257. Again, that number, 941-251-4257. We always start it with high school football, and the regular season is over. The playoffs have actually started for some of the small schools, and we'll get into that in a little bit. The game of the week last week, Zephyr Hills hosted Port Charlotte in a battle of 9-0 versus 8-1, a couple of teams way at the top of 5A, and it didn't disappoint. Zephyr Hills ended up winning the game 49-48, as Port Charlotte was on the wrong end this time of the two-point conversion. So they finished the season at 8-2. John, I know you saw them against Venice, one of their two losses. Talk to me a little bit. This was as advertised. Port Charlotte, certainly Logan Flaherty, who, by the way, this week committed to UCF, according to his social media. So the Knights could really use him right now. But nonetheless, Port Charlotte could really use him now. Your thoughts?
Well, like I said, I'm very impressed with Port Charlotte. They, especially the last two seasons, they're on the rise in regards to what I think where they can end up. I still think they're a state semifinalist at the very least with the talent level they have. This game in particular, with Zephyr Hills, I don't know much about Zephyr Hills, but obviously a 9-0 football team. And offense. You see that with a 49-48 game, 2-point conversion. I know it worked for them once. It didn't work for them at this time. But I would tell you that based on what they've done to this part of the season, I don't know if the loss to Zephyr Hills is a bad thing, because it kind of plays out as a practice playoff game in some way or another, playing against a really powerful team. You'll know what to expect moving forward. So I think that there's a positive to that, especially with Port Charlotte trying to find their way out of that regional lineup for them. That's for sure.
Xavier, I know you're up in the Sarasota and Bradenton area. You do a lot of Sarasota and Manatee coverage. Ever get a chance to see Port Charlotte this year?
I got a chance to see Port Charlotte when they came down to Venice and they made the trip there, and I was very impressed with what I saw from them that evening. I tell everyone who doesn't realize there is a rivalry there between Port Charlotte and Venice that is developing, and they're getting closer and closer each year, because you can make the argument, if you were in attendance for that game, that Port Charlotte had many opportunities to win that game and put Venice away.
There's no doubt about that. Yeah, there's no doubt about that, and that's the thing. A lot of the schools that don't want to play Venice, whatever the reasons may be. But Port Charlotte has stepped into that fray and said, let's see where we're at, because that's the stepping stone. Because it's not so much that what happens this year. That stepping stone is the guy who's coming up as a freshman and a sophomore to be his term. He's like, oh, okay, I've been there and done that. I make comment all the time about how the Venice kids now, when they speak of IMG, they don't speak like IMG, like, well, we're going to see what happens. They're like, no, we're going to go beat them, and they don't feel like that's that far away from them. And you watch the climb and the climb and the climb. So I think that Port Charlotte is doing the right thing by playing a Zephyrhills at the end of the year or playing a Venice during your, in that situation. Because now when you play games where you are up against it with Naples this year, where they pulled that one out, that they're going to continue to do that. And they're going to continue, and everybody's going to get used to that. They're going to dig that little groove into their soul on how to win these football games.
Charlotte wins their final game over North Fort Myers 37-7. Important because those two teams were literally right up against each other in the playoff standings. So Charlotte was the 7 seed, I believe, as they were going into that game. So I would guess they're going to be in the playoffs. They finished the regular season at 6-4. One of the better records they've had in the last several years.
Yeah, I mean, again, you kind of keep on. I was mentioning to you earlier. I said that Charlotte's been quietly doing what they do and getting to the playoffs and doing, and having successful seasons. Back in the day when they were playing in the district with Venice and Riverview and everybody else like that, they were never not. They're playoff bound every year. So I got to think that there's a lot of things going on. I think Port Charlotte. Talk about rivalries. Obviously, a homemade rivalry there in Port Charlotte and Charlotte. But Xavier, I think that Port Charlotte has taken a little bit away from Charlotte's sort of bully pulpit they had for a lot of years.
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure. I mean, you see the way that the program is going at Port Charlotte and how they've gradually improved year in and year out. And hopefully the same thing is happening with Charlotte. I'm not so sure how long the head coach has been there, but what I do know is that it takes time to build a program.
Yep.
And you're excited when you see those teams and those programs take those strides forward, as you're seeing with Charlotte this year. I'm not sure exactly how the playoff standings are going to end up shaking out their way as far as how far they may end up going, but it's a nice stepping stone for them to build upon going into next season, especially with those returning players they'll have.
So Xavier,
go ahead, Rich.
I was just going to say, Xavier, where were you Friday night?
I was at Manatee. I was at Manatee High School. They took on the Riverview Rams. Yeah. That was the game that folks voted for as our game of the week, and it made the most sense being two old school Suncoast rivalries between Manatee and Riverview, and it was a high scoring affair.
No doubt about it. Yeah, I was going to ask you, kind of talking about how Port Charlotte's made its way up in the ranks. Two teams early in the year that I felt like we're going to do the same thing up in Bradenton. I felt as though that Southeast was on the rise for sure. Kirk Bradley being there, a lot of experience from Braden River with him. And then I also thought Bayshore was going to make a move. And in both cases, they did. I think, unfortunately, I think that obviously Southeast, I think, fell short of the playoffs. Do we know that just yet? And Bayshore was in the last I checked as well. But again, playing and getting to that point, building that culture, like you said, it takes a little time. Couple years in for those two coaches, and they are on the rise up there, and they can be powerhouses just as good as Palmetto and Manatee and anybody else can. They've got talent, and they've got pedigree.
Yeah, both coaches, Coach Bradley over at Southeast and Coach Sanders over at Bayshore, they've done a really good job of just building that program. You saw the strides that Coach Bradley was making early on in year one of last year. It was a lot of up and down there, but you saw the strides that we're making, and they took a big, gigantic leap this year, at least record-wise. With Coach Sanders, there were questions like, okay, this is a program that hasn't had too much success over at Bayshore for 20 years now, and like you've got your work cut out for you. In year one, he definitely had his work cut out for him. They only won one game. But like you said, John, I saw something in week one with this team when they hosted the Sarasota Sailors. Yeah. And I just saw what the offense was doing. They had some players on defense. They had some guys on special teams. I said, okay, there's some talent here. And I saw when they won that game and how they started off the season 4-1. I was like, okay, there's something that they're building here. Now, unfortunately, they did end up losing their remaining games the rest of the season, but because of the district that they're in, they are going to the postseason for the first time in 20 years. And honestly, you couldn't be happier for that school and the folks over there and anybody that supports Bayshore, because it's been a long time coming.
My memory recollection is over the last few years, I think there was a point where Bayshore, they cashed their season in when one of the hurricane years, and I don't think they finished the season out. They were in a situation where they didn't know where to go. The program was without players, and to get as quickly to get back on track as quickly as they have. And if they can keep on building that momentum, I really look at Bayshore, and I recollect I'm old school Venice guy, from back in the 80s, and Bayshore was the team. That's the one you had to play. Manatee was kind of building at that point in time. Southeast a little bit as well, always been successful. But Bayshore, man, you didn't want to play Bayshore back in the day, and they had some really, really talented teams. And so I think it's more than possible than to get that back on track. It's like I said, there's enough athletes there and the right coaching and the right situation and off and running. So it's encouraging to see that happen, because I'm sure there's a lot of the programs looking at that maybe as a model for them as well. So I think it's really great that they've managed to do what they've done.
And hiring local guys like Ace Sanders to come in and redirect those programs. I mean, and you're seeing it happen with a lot more of the programs down here too. Yeah. But in particular with him and his staff and what he's put together, you have guys on that staff like Dominique Rogers-Cromartie, who was a great player in the NFL for so many years, even played in the Super Bowl with the Arizona Cardinals. And for that school to be in the position to have the staff that they have, who they're coming back and they played on the highest of levels and they're giving that knowledge to those student athletes, you honestly couldn't ask for anything better. Because say that they didn't make the playoffs. Well, you've got some student athletes who, if schools are willing to give them a chance to at least have walk-on shots, they're probably going to have more knowledge of the game than some of the folks that they could be going to play with on the next level.
Yep. I totally agree with that.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt.
So Xavier, talk to me a little bit, Riverview has scored points all year long. They've had several 50 burgers. And, I'm not surprised that they beat Manatee, but they put 63 on them. Talk to me.
Well, that doesn't surprise me that they put 63 on them, and that's no disrespect to Manatee in any way whatsoever. With Riverview, they are just loaded offensively. They can beat you any way offensively. Running the football with Torian James and Isaiah Belt, they have two great backs right there who can get the job done. They can go up and down the field on you at any given point. They really have built a rapport with Parker Nippert as their quarterback in his first year as the starter there. Noah Chifo is somebody who he's a wide receiver for them. He wears number 3. He is a matchup nightmare, especially in one-on-one situations. And you saw that on Friday at Manatee. I've been seeing it throughout the course of the season. I'm impressed with what they've been doing defensively as well. But where they really have taken control this season is being good in the trenches on both sides of the ball. That offensive line, they've got some guys up front that can really get that job done. And then they have it up front as well with their front 7, in particular that front 4, though, on defense. They really have shored up the trenches. And as we know, that's usually where battles are mostly won out on the football field.
So that I know a lot about Riverview for a lot of different reasons. Mark Christiani coming off the Venice staff and now getting his opportunity. And I always say that the team becomes a reflection of the head coach at some point in time. And somewhere in the middle of the season, I think that Riverview kind of finally took fully what Mark's about. Mark is a high energy guy. Okay, there's no doubt about it. If you can't get motivated from Mark, I don't know where you can. You know what I mean? We've been on fishing trips together, different things and whatever it may be. And I'll tell a quick story about Mark. My brother was a colonel in the Army, and Mark was also a ranger in the Army. And he said, "Colonel, come on over. We're gonna split some logs, for the fire." And my brother came back about 5 minutes later and said, "I can't keep up with that guy. He's splitting logs with his bare hands, and I can't do it with an axe." Right? And so, but that's Mark, and Mark does things, and he's got that. He's got this great energy level, and I think it's hard for the kids to not want to equal that or see that. So it's good, So him scoring points, him getting that trenches thing. That's where he lives. Mark's not a tall guy, but he's a big guy, and he played football at Eastern Kentucky University, defensive tackle, and he's all about the trenches. So none of the things that you just said, Xavier, surprised me one bit about him, and that energy level will be there. The kids will not lose that spark. He will be that guy for a long time, and scoring points against Manatee, I think that's a confidence builder too. I said, hey, 63, maybe that looks good. Moving the rankings up a little bit, but I just think the fact that that's a confidence builder saying, well, look what we can do. And I think that's going to help them out quite a bit.
You talk about the energy levels. What folks also should know is that That's who he is at any given time. The energy that he has out there on the football field, that's the energy that he's had during every interaction I've had with him. Whether it's a press conference, it's an interview, just a face-to-face interaction, just saying hello, that is his energy every single time.
Absolutely. And not in energy, but he's one of the funniest guys you'll ever come across. And he is hysterical. Delivery is great. And that's what I mean. It's energy, but it's positive. It's there's no negativity to it. It's very positive. And I think that's where I think that helps a lot, especially, kids are kids and it's a long season. They've been practicing all summer. Man, you're in week 8 and coach is still happy and still smiling and cracking a joke and how you doing and what can I do to help you? I mean, how do you not respond to that? It's hard not to.
A couple of teams that are ready for playoff runs. John and I have been talking about this all year. Booker and Cardinal Mooney both finished 9-1. Their only loss out of state in both cases. Booker beat Seminole 21-9 to win their final game of the regular season, and Cardinal Mooney destroyed a team called Specially Fit 55-7. I wonder what they were specially fit about.
Pacing around the other team, I guess.
Yeah, there was no stopping Cannell Jackson for them on Friday.
Yeah, and I guess you got around to those games as well. Booker seems to be set to make a playoff run, and Cardinal Mooney announced themselves in the kickoff classic when they gave St. Thomas Aquinas a game, probably having 1/3 of the roster.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, anytime you St. Thomas is they prove they start a little slow sometimes, but look where they're at. They played Chaminade this weekend and they beat Chaminade. So kind of giving themselves that little bit like we're the big dog this year, and we'll see how they run through they can run through 5A classification. But Xavier, I got a question for you. I mean, haven't seen much of Booker this year, other than what I hear in highlights and whatnot. I think that they got a real chance to get past that hurdle they couldn't get by last year. What's your opinion on Booker as far as their potential going forward in the playoffs?
Well, I agree with you 100%, John, because number one, I'm very impressed with how that team has been able to come together this year, because they go from one coach to the next, and you didn't know what Carlos Woods was necessarily going to be bringing to the table as the head coach and the athletic director of the school, having to balance all of that. But they have picked up from where they left off, and they've done even more. And one of the things that coach told me at the beginning of the season is we're going to go as far as our defense takes us, and they know how to slow some teams down. They held Seminole to 9 points on Friday, but offensively they got some playmakers that can get it done too.
I remember from media day, Coach Woods, he used the word family a lot. And I think that when in a situation where they were transitioning out from Coach Little's situation, it was kind of a little bit of a mess at the end of that whole situation. And him sort of unifying that team, if that was the message, I think leads to not just success in the short term, but that's where the success long term goes to. Because when you're looking at the guy next to you on either side and you're considered family, it's a different way. It's that threshold that pushes you through with that attitude.
And that's exactly the sense that you get from it when you go out to Booker, and especially at practices. It's hard to get a sense of it during the game at times because things are high, it's intense, you're in those real situations, you're in the middle of a battle. But when you go out there for those practices, you really get that sense of family and community amongst that team out there too.
I got one more question for Xavier, if I can, Rich.
Go ahead.
Cardinal Mooney, again, not we've seen the scores, we've seen the schedule, how they played. They look to me like a team I'm familiar with, obviously Venice. When you've got that, they've got that polish on them now. Like they look like this is where they live now, and they live for going towards state championships. They look like it's very funny to say it's business-like, but it feels like they don't have any doubts about how good they are and where they can end up. And am I seeing it the right way on that one, Xavier?
Oh, absolutely. They're currently the number 2 ranked team in the state right now. They were number 1 just a few weeks ago, but what Coach Jared Clark and his staff and what they've done over that program is just remarkable, considering that, guys, I came down here in 2019 when I was hired for ABC 7, and you didn't even think about Cardinal Mooney being in a postseason situation at all. and they weren't even in that situation necessarily in 2022. 2023, I think they shocked everybody and took them by storm when they went on the state championship run that they did. 2024, they took on Cocoa in the state semifinals, and we knew that would be a tough test for them, but they hung tough against them as much as they could. What's more impressive about them to me this season, though, is they are stacked everywhere across the board. I mean, you think about the fact that Devin Menery comes into the season as the starting quarterback. He's already committed to Stanford to go there next year after he graduates in the spring. And to most people, he might not even be the best quarterback on this roster. Davin Davidson might be the best quarterback on this roster. That's the name that I hear a lot across the community. And Cannell Jackson, if you just give him a hole to run through, it can just be a small, teeny tiny hole. He's gone. It's pay dirt. It's to the house almost every single time. And they've got some weapons on the outside too. But where I really think they've improved this year, even taking a giant step from last year, is defensively on that defensive line. They've got some edge rushers. They get after the quarterback.
Let's give the small schools some love here as the playoffs actually began already. Out of door beat Seffner Christian 21-7. They're now 8-2 on the season, and they host Jupiter Christian, who's a perennial power in their level at 7 p.m. on Friday. Everybody's talking about this as kind of the bye week, but it's not for the smaller schools, is it?
Right. No, you're right. Tell them, Xavier. Yeah, you got it.
So Bradenton Christian, they'll also be playing this Friday as well. Out of Door Academy, they'll be on the road at Jupiter Christian, as Rich just said. But are they on the road or are they home?
I had it as hosting, but you could be right.
We'll take another look at that in just a second. But yes, it's very impressive with what they've been able to do, especially over at Bradenton Christian. Because I got to tell you, 2 years ago in the 2023 season, Strauderman, who is now the offensive coordinator over at Out of Door Academy, he was the head coach, and he had that team rolling. He leaves to originally go join what Kurt Bradley was building over at Southeast, then decides to leave and then go to Out of Door Academy, and you see the influence he's had on that offense over there, how they now have a passing threat, and it's not just Alan Clark running the ball down your throat every single time. The way that they've been able to turn that program around in a year's time, because in 2024,
they were not there. There's nothing.
No, there was nothing there last year. And now they have an undefeated team that has a legitimate chance of competing for a state championship. You cannot say enough how great of a job that staff and the administrators have done with that team.
I just looked it up. It says versus, and from what I see on Max Preps, usually versus means you're the host. But we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure with the playoffs, it could be a little different. But
I'll tell you this, Rich. I hope it is versus. I hope they are at home, because at least that gives us another game that we can be in attendance for.
There you go.
Because I had a parent on the team reach out to me and say, "Yeah, we'll be at Jupiter Christian." So that's why I was under that impression right there.
And that could very well be right. Playoffs, things get a little different. They might just think it's neutral or whatever. So I would take it. The parent knows more than the Max Preps. So I would. It would be great if it was here. It really would. Bradenton Christian, you remember, or you mentioned, moved to 10-0. They beat Geneva Classical 42-12, and they'll host Donahue Catholic Friday at 7. And they just beat them on the 24th at their place. So you would have to think Bradenton Christian's a pretty decent chance to move on.
They should be viewed as the favorite coming into this game. But one thing I'll tell everyone, hey, let's hit pause on just for a second. Sometimes when a team sees you for a second time, they are going to be better prepared going up against you the next time around, because did you put your best product out there on the field the first time around? Because if you did, there are some things they're going to go back, they're going to watch film on, they're going to try to figure some things out. But this also could be another case of where Bradenton Christian goes in and they just handle business again because they're just a superior team.
Yep.
Totally agree. Sarasota Christian, unfortunately, bowed out of the playoffs. Overtime lost to Masters Academy 23-17 to finish at 5-6. But that program is on the rise as well, gentlemen, isn't it?
Yes, Coach Spin is doing a great job with that program over there.
Yeah, Coach Spin he's another. I mean, I'll give him one bead with Mark Christiani. I mean, he's got great energy. He sends out his email every week. the detail in the game. I love all that, and I speak of it because if everybody took that type of time and energy in doing what he does, man, how successful a lot of people would be in that indication. And just transitioning, from 8-man football to 11-man football, where they're headed and that stuff. What a great guy to move that program forward as it has, and getting to play against the teams he wanted to play against, the ODAs and the St. Stephen's and the Braden Christians and all that stuff. So he's done well to be 5-6, and he's doing. I think he'll continue to do a great job.
Palmetto finished 9-1. Boy, they talk about a last game. I wonder who they played. East Lee County. They beat them 50-0. East Lee County ended up being winless. I know Lemon Bay boat raced them a couple of weeks ago. It's not a very good football team, but Palmetto's ready for the playoffs anyway. Parish Community, same district, also finished 9-1. Their only loss was to Palmetto, and they beat Sarasota in a game that was a little tighter than people might have thought, but Parish Community at 9-1. I'd love to see another rematch there, even though the first game was kind of lopsided towards Palmetto. Right, Xavier?
Yes, it was, but I believe the second time around, Coach Clark and his staff, they'll have those guys ready to go this time around. They've had some lower scoring affairs, Parish has throughout the course of the season, but they've been able to come out on top, and it's important that you have to go through those moments where you're having those lower scoring matchups and you just have to find ways to win. Palmetto hasn't necessarily had to experience that too much this season. The one loss coming against Riverview, and that really wasn't a close matchup at the end of the day. So Parish, they could have a slight advantage in the second matchup around if those teams do face off against each other again. But that juggernaut that they have over at Palmetto, especially offensively, the quarterback, Matthew Hennessy, and the weapons that he has around him, I mean, it's incredible what Coach Sanders and his staff have been able to do there in the 2 seasons that they've been there at that program, because they didn't take over a bad Palmetto team, but they took over a team that was a little in the middle of the road and was below the standard that I think that folks in Palmetto had become used to seeing for years with that team. And they just took it and they just ran with it, because they started off on a great run last year and they just picked it up this year. And they didn't have a terrible record last year in any way whatsoever. But when you watch them this year, you see and you just feel the difference with that team. They definitely have been the best high school team in Manatee County this year, bar none. But one thing I will say, because Rich, you mentioned that it was a closer matchup for Parish on Friday against Sarasota than others anticipated. I had a chance to actually chat with Coach Clark on Friday night, and he said, listen, Coach Campbell and company, I know they're not going to the playoffs, but he is doing a great job with that program over there. Look out for them in 2026. Just
talking about that before we started as well, and I said, I saw the score, and I'm like, okay, Sarasota, there are pieces at Sarasota. They moved the ball against Venice. They threw for over 300 yards against Venice, and they've got a quarterback who can fling it. He's got a quick release. He's athletic. You've got running backs. You've got a receiver that again, and
they're very young.
And exactly, and they're young. So I mean, if you had to end the season on a loss, maybe on that note, there's a lot to build off of, and confidence wise, I think they're headed in the right direction there. Palmetto, and you mentioned earlier about playing somebody a second time. All these teams are going to face, they could possibly face somebody a second time, and it is difficult because the games can come down to, like any game, penalties and turnovers. There's all effect on all that kind of stuff. And sometimes you play somebody and you're the winning team, and you're like, well, we're not going to switch what we did because we beat them by doing this. Well, the other teams come back saying, well, now we can make adjustments. So normally those games become much tighter and much closer. So if they were close to start off with, they're going to be closer in those next matchups. Real quick about Palmetto, Coach Sanders, when Venice was and Braden River had their heated rivalry for years, boy, could that guy call plays. I mean, he always had talent at Braden River. Don't get me wrong, but the talent he has at Palmetto, I can just imagine he must be like the chef in the kitchen with all the good ingredients. He can make up some things and really let things fly. Really interested to see how well they're going to do. I think they are explosive enough to beat anybody at this point.
All right, a couple other teams I want to mention. Braden River, we talked a little bit about them. They beat George Jenkins 10-9. They ended up 4-6, doubled their win total from last year's. Xavier, we you talked to their coach a lot during the preview we did. He's got to be happy. They've made progress.
Yes, and that's the main thing you want to see is the progress with the program, because one of the things that Coach Grain did tell me when I first met him last year in 2024, and he had first taken the job, he said, listen, this is going to take time. It's going to take time to build this program back up, but I'm confident that we're going to be able to do it. So folks over at Braden River, of course, they're not happy with the fact that they're not going to be back in the postseason again for a second straight year, but give it some time. 2026 could be a very different story for you, because now he's able to have his imprint on the team and it feels like it's his team. I can tell you it didn't feel like that last year necessarily. Honestly, we didn't know whose team it was. And when I say that, it's like we know that he's the head coach. We know that he's the lead man at the helm. But in terms of the pieces that he had to work with, those weren't his guys. Those were guys who were going to be there with Coach Bradley had he remained there. And we saw some of those pieces transfer over to Southeast a year ago as well to go over and play with Coach Bradley. But it just felt like it was a middling program a little, through no fault of Coach Grain or anybody there for that matter. Sometimes things just shake out like that. And we also have to consider the fact that he didn't have a full off season. And the same thing happened with Coach Sanders over at Bayshore. These guys didn't have full off seasons to really get to know. Yeah. They didn't have the full off seasons to really get to know the ins and outs of the program per se, the way that you can when you do have that time period to really sit down and figure out, okay, where do we need to improve in this area? This area we need to have some improvement upon. And also in terms of recruiting for their coaching staff too. Do I need to bring in somebody else who's going to be able to help us shore up that defensive line, that offensive line, get those running backs, those wide receivers, those linebackers ready, different position level coaches too. So he had that this offseason, this time around. He's going to have even more time with it this time. They're making some strides over there, because even though it was just 4 wins, you can make an argument that it easily could have been 5 or 6, because they had some tighter games during this season as well, where it was like, okay, if a few things had to just went a little differently, it might have been a different outcome.
Right. Coach Bradley and Coach Sanders left such a footprint on Braden River. The success was, state semifinals, playoff for years in a row. When they leave, there's a lot that comes. They both left, and then boom, a lot comes out of the program, and kids are a little lost. Parents are thinking that this is going to be their kids' opportunity to play with Coach Bradley, and all of a sudden it all kind of dissipates. So for him to come around and beat where he's at right now, tip of the hat to him. It was not an easy process, and especially with that largest success that he had to follow.
All right, one other team didn't play, Venice. They had the week off, and they actually came up short a game. It'll be interesting to see when the playoff rankings come out, because Riverview gets the nice win on the last game of the year, how that comes, because it was relatively close. How the points work. We were talking about other teams winning. And the other thing you're worried about, John, having seen Venice all year long, you talked about it before we went on the podcast. You're a little concerned about rust.
It's not just the idea was to have 2 weeks off. That was the idea with how the scheduling was. However, you look at it and you say, okay, you'll get one less game. You have some injuries, some guys that haven't played in a few weeks. So it's not so much like say, oh, they physically ready. Sometimes it's just being sharp mentally. All of a sudden, right. You first play from scrimmage and you get that you do a simple handoff to somebody and they're not holding that ball high and tight or whatever, and boom, there's a fumble on the first play, and then you're like, oh, okay, how'd that happen? So it's not necessarily the things you think of. It's that kind of a thing where you just haven't played a full speed game in a number of weeks. And that first hit or that first drive or that first tackle or that first whatever, it takes a little while to get yourself up to speed. And in the playoffs, you don't want to fall behind. Trust me, talking about the saying the familiarity with playing a team twice. Here's the worst thing that happens with the team that lost. The other team comes out and puts 2 touchdowns on you or puts 1 on you. In the playoffs, that changes everything. Underdogs become super dogs, if you want to call them that. As soon as if they get a lead or they see a crack in your armor, boy, how the energy level just goes through the roof. And then it's that belief we can do it. So that is a bit of a concern. If there's one thing I know about the Venice staff is that they're going to make sure they do everything possible for that not to happen. They will figure out some way or another, and whatever it may be, to simulate things or whatever it may be, so that they're as sharp as they possibly can be. But nonetheless, they're still high school kids, so you're never quite sure what you're going to get week to week.
Tons of really good teams here, guys. I'm going to throw an over-under number at you. Over or under 3.5 teams from our area that make the state, I won't even say state finals, state semifinals. Start with you, Xavier.
I'm going to give it a chance at 3. I believe that Cardinal Mooney has a chance to make it. I really like that Palmetto team. I think they've got a chance to make it. And believe it or not, the third team I'm going to say is I'm going to say Venice, because this is a year where whatever ends up happening with Venice, it won't surprise me in terms of could they make another run to a state championship? Yes, that's possible. Could they run into a team that is just going to be more mentally sharp than they are and they could knock them off? Yeah, that's possible too. But I trust with how the second half of this season has gone for them. And that game against Riverview to me really was a statement win for them, just in terms of these weren't the same Riverview Rams that everybody had been seeing for the past few years.
Right.
Riverview came in and they basically had been the story of the football season thus far, with how they were putting points up on the board, the amount of wins they had coming in, and going into Venice as an undefeated team on the season. Honestly, there were questions going in. Is Riverview going to go to Venice and win this game? And
right.
Venice came out and they punched them in the mouth, and they just kept it going throughout the course of the duration of the game that they play. It's very similar to what we see in the NFL with teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, or even in college football with teams like my Georgia Bulldogs, who, you know, they were shaky a year ago. They've been shaky at times this year. But I remember a game a year ago when they went in and they played at Texas, and they went in and they just punched them in the mouth. And that told me, okay,
right.
This team is where they need to be, and they'll be ready to go when it's time for them to be ready to go. I feel that way about this Venice team this year. And the fact that they have been able to build this 1-2 combo with Darian and Tyree Mannings, that's going to be a force that defenses are going to have to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I think you're right there too. I'll say this. I think it's over, Rich. I think it's 4 because, and I'm going to say this, if it's not Venice coming out of that region, it's going to be Riverview. So I think one of those 2 teams might be the ones that'll moving into that spot. So I think that's why I kind of hedge my bet on that one. I like Booker. I just like Booker. I just think that there's something. Sometimes, like I said, it's not quiet coming out of Booker, but it's quieter. They're again, they sort of seem like they galvanized, and they're winning. Hey, Booker, put another win on. I think they're going to kind of move that way. So I'll say Venice/Riverview. I'll say Palmetto. I will say Booker, and for sure, I would be very surprised if Cardinal Mooney doesn't move forward as well. Again, the way that they everything about them, that they seem like they're just that they got the power, the football team, the speed, they got all aspects of the game. Hard matchup for anybody at any level to play.
Rich actually moved me to 4 as well. I got to put Booker in there too. I forgot about him there just momentarily, but yes, with what I've seen with them this year, yes, I got to put Booker in that mix too. So 4 for me too.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 5.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna add Port Charlotte. I know they're not in your region, Xavier, but I think Port Charlotte finally slays the Naples Dragon.
Yeah, that's been their bugaboo.
Yep. I'm with you. I think it's either Venice or Riverview in that region, and I think it's either Parrish or Palmetto in that region. So I think one of those 2 is going to go, and I'm with you with Booker, and I'm with Cardinal Mooney. I guess I'm just bullish on our area. I think the football here is just off the charts.
And Rich, I'll say something to you as far as with Palmetto with Port Charlotte. They've played a very tough schedule, so they're not going to get tripped up by anything. They did beat Naples in the regular season. Okay, another positive for them, but they got a special quarterback, and I'm telling you that it means a lot in going forward into the playoffs. You get to that 3rd round, you've got to have a guy who's in command of that football team. He can do it with his feet, and he can do it with his arm. He reminds me of Bryce Carpenter from back in Venice when Bryce was a 4-year starter at Venice, won the state championship in 2017. And there were steps to Bryce's maturity and growth. And I think I'm seeing the same thing there. And don't forget too, Coach Ingman, man, he's been there for a bit. He's been there, done that guy a little bit. And I think he's tired. That I know when there was a threshold to break through for a lot of these, for Venice in particular. I think he's prepared for it. The manner in which he conducts himself in the media, the manner he conducts himself in regards to his team. Sometimes you see that sort of that confidence grows. He's building as well with his team, and I think that's going to go forward. So I didn't say Port Charlotte, but I'm going to keep a betting thing going. I'm over 3.5.
Over 3.5. We all think it's going to be over 3.5, and I think and then that's only state semifinals, and then hopefully a couple of these teams can take the trip down to.
I'm telling you guys, that's so much fun down to when those things. It's exciting. It's a different energy, even though you're in a bigger stadium and whatnot. The energy is way different. It's palpable. It's great.
Yeah. All right, that will do it for our high school segment. Again, the 941 Sports Zone brought to you by the good folks at Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida. Give them a call at 941-251-4257. They are locally owned, but they have national backing, which is really important, and they do a great job on roofs, not only for homes, but also businesses up and down the Gulf Coast. All right, college football. Xavier, you let the cat out of the bag, so I got a Florida man in the middle. I got a Georgia man on the outside. I'm going to start with you since you're the guest, Xavier. Your thoughts on the Georgia-Florida game? I know Georgia ended up winning by 4. They probably could have won by 11. They take a couple of knees at the end, but middle of the fourth quarter, Georgia's driving, and they're down in that game. Talk to me.
I had a nervous feeling going into the game, Rich, just simply because of everything that's happened with Florida. And I'm like, okay, Billy Gonzalez could give them that boost that they need going into this game. It could be a different energy going into the game. I just had a nervous feeling going into it. And, of course, at the end of the third quarter, I'm like, don't tell me that this is going to happen because no disrespect to the Florida fans out there. But the way that the Georgia fan base views this game now is it doesn't feel like a rivalry anymore at this point. Hopefully that can change and it can start to feel like that again. But for us, it's don't go out and embarrass the state. Go out there and handle your business and do what you have to do. You're one of the top 5 teams in the nation for a reason. Go out there and show why. I'm still not so sure that we saw that on Saturday because of how Florida went out there and played because they didn't get pushed around. Florida, listen, I know Billy Napier was fired. I know that things just ended up not going the way that they wanted it to go. He accumulated a really good roster of talent. The talent has always been there. I mean, we have some local kids from the Suncoast who are on that team, guys like Teddy Foster. Right. So he's accumulated a really good roster of talent. But Billy Gonzalez, maybe he was the voice that they needed on Saturday to go in. They almost pull off the upset. But I'm happy that Georgia was able to get the win, of course, and really classy gesture to decide to just go ahead and kneel the ball down at the end instead of rubbing it in and just going in and scoring just to go in and win by double digits when it probably wasn't going to change your standings in the rankings anyway. They were ranked 5 coming in, and according to the AP poll, they're still 5 today.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I was at the game on Saturday. I have a long history.
How many in a row is that now, John? How many in a row is that?
Outside of COVID, and then when the stadium renovation, I've been to every game since 1984. Wow. So I've been to quite a few cocktail party, and I can say it here. I'm not going to cut. It is the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. It is a fabulous time. For as much as the rivalry means something, the party beforehand means as much, and everybody gets along just fine. And I tailgated with Georgia fans this year. My friends are Georgia fans and all that stuff. So it's always a great time. I will say this about the rivalry again. It's been a rivalry of streaks. Right now Georgia is had the streak. There was a point where it was 18 out of 21 Florida had won through the Spurrier era and a little before that as well, in going into Urban Meyer's tenure there. So it's been lopsided one way or the other. Who knows why, but it could be coincidental about that. But you're right. I think Billy Napier did accumulate a lot of good talent. I think right now there's a figuring out moment for a lot of these players. Billy Gonzalez has a long history of being around big, really good programs. Urban Meyer's staff at Florida for years. He's been around Florida's program before. He got a little bit. He understands that stuff. but you've got to convince these Florida kids that they can win these games. Like you win in Texas, but there's always like this at the end of the game, like, something's going wrong here. When you lose to USF, you should have put them away in the second quarter or the third quarter, and you keep people in there. You're just not figuring out how to have that killer instinct. That's what Georgia had. I can't tell you that if Gunnar Stockton is the best quarterback out there, or if the running back is the best running back, or any of those guys. I can't tell you that, but I can tell you this: they all have that killer instinct. They all know that it's time to go win a football game. And Florida had some chances to go out and try to win that football game. Couldn't cash it in a 4th-and-1 run. Missed a wide open receiver that would have been a go-ahead touchdown. Things where plays need to be made. Florida didn't do it, and Georgia did it every single time. And that's when you win. You said you're number 5. I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia finishes number 4, number 3 in the country, and look back and say, what was your signature win? And say, like, I don't know. We just won.
I would have to say it's probably Ole Miss at this point.
Yeah, but even so, was Tennessee a signature win because you came back to win that football game? There's a lot of those things, and I just think that once you like Coach Smart has figured out a way to say it don't matter, we're going to go win. We're not going to let the referees get in our face. Let them do what they're going to do. We're going to pose our will at the end of the game. We'll have more points than we're going to win. That's what I see with Georgia right now. And when you get that formula down, that's longevity. It's not a flash in the pan. This is a culture that's been built. And even with certain situations with 5-star recruits, they'll say, "Hey, you want to leave? Go ahead and leave. We're going to keep working with this. Hey, our quarterback left. He went to Miami. Okay. There you go. We're cruising along just as good with Gunnar." And so I think that's where it comes down to. Florida is not there yet. They're not in the room yet, I would say. That's how I call it. So they're knocking on the door, but they're not in the room yet. It's going to be a really interesting situation. And I know it's probably a conversation for down the road, but we got 3 openings in SEC teams right now. Pedigree teams. Florida.
4. Yeah.
Oh, Hugh Freeze.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have Hugh Freeze, we have Billy Napier, we have Brian Kelly, and we have Arkansas. That's right. We have 4.
That's right.
And so, wow, who's going to get who? They all can't be great. We wouldn't think, right? Who's going to get the right guy? Is Lane Kiffin the one? Is he the grand prize? I don't know. But boys, between football games and Monday through Friday for all the other stuff, the SEC is just gobbling up the airwaves right now, and it's going to be interesting to see how things go. Some of these teams like Florida, like LSU, this hire could be a 10-year difference in how your program goes forward. If you don't get this one right, man, down the road, you're talking about really having some struggles, and we'll see if that's the case.
Xavier, if Florida would have won the game, would the rivalry have been back?
I'm going to say no.
No,
because right. I believe that it takes more than just you being able to get that one win per se for me to be able to say that the rivalry is back. What I would say is that it would have been a nice boost for them to at least finish the rest of the season to try to see, can we get back in bowl contention? Because right now they're fighting just to be able to get into a college football bowl game. So that would have been a nice boost for them to be able to do that. And it would have given Billy Gonzalez some points with administration and boosters that, okay, should we consider looking at him as the permanent solution as head coach and removing that interim tag? And maybe with just how they played on Saturday, maybe he helped himself out just a little more with that anyway. But I don't think he's going to end up being the guy, because I feel like they're going to go out and they're going to try to make a splashy hire here. And that feels like what they're going to need to have to do.
Well, Xavier, you're talking a little like a Florida fan, because we talked about this. We're like, Billy Gonzalez have enough to offer to make it a consideration. So let's say he loses, like he lost to Georgia. Let's say he goes through the rest of the schedule and wins all the rest of the games. Is it Ole Miss being the hardest of the games at this point? Let's say you upset Ole Miss and you go right through that. Do you look around and say, hey, maybe this guy's got something here? Because the defensive coaches are pretty good at Florida right now. They've played well on defense. But I think the biggest problem is that there's a bit of that SEC Florida booster money that they want a splash guy. That's the big thing. Is it practical? Is it better? I don't know. But we all, as a collective, we're talking the Florida guys who were up there with me, and we're like, this is this the look that we need to look at? Is this an audition, or is this a placeholder right now? We don't know. If he runs through the schedule, he might get an interview. I don't know if he'll get a job, but he might get an interview. That's for sure, and rightfully so, because he showed a little bit more moxie and a little bit more in this game than maybe Billy Napier had. Nothing to lose, obviously, at this point, but he did show a little more moxie and a little more confidence in going into that game.
What I'll say in return to what you said in terms of if they can run it out the rest of the way through, if he doesn't get the job at Florida, I do believe that he sets him up in position to get a job somewhere else. That's what I do believe.
I agree. Because you know what's going to happen.
Does he leave, guys? He's been here since Spurrier.
But I'm going to say what happens is that he may or may not. But remember, you're probably looking at there's going to be some guys pilfered from SEC teams. You're looking at Chuck Lee, at Vandy and Eli Drinkowitz in Missouri. They're almost I don't know how either one of them stay where they're at. Even though they're winning and they're in the SEC, there's something about that next level for them in that particular case. So would Billy Gonzalez be a guy with SEC knowledge to maybe be interviewed for one of those jobs if he went 5-1 or 4-1 to end the tenure? Absolutely, he would need to be, because that's the guy that they would get to keep the process rolling. Knowledge of what the SEC expects of him, knowledge of recruiting. I know he's a really good recruiter too. I know he's really good. When him and Charlie Strong, they were very much linchpins in that recruiting team with Urban Meyer. So there's a lot to be said about that. So I would be, if he didn't get a job interview, I think it would be foolish for anybody who's looking to get a guy who knows what he's doing.
And I do believe that all 4 of the SEC openings, and hopefully it will just remain 4 openings at this point. I don't know what's going to end up happening the rest of the way, because it's been a crazy season in terms of midseason firings that we've been seeing on the Power 5, Power 4 level. But I do believe that with all of those SEC openings, I believe they're all going to go in the direction of somebody that has knowledge of what it means to play in the SEC and coach in the SEC. Because that was the biggest issue that LSU ran into in terms of Brian Kelly, that folks did have questions about coming in. Yes, we know. Right. And it's like, we know what you did at Cincinnati. We know what you did at Notre Dame. But coming to the SEC is a totally different thing than being at those schools. No disrespect to those schools, but it's totally different here. You have to recruit differently here. You have to go about things differently here. And it's a gauntlet here every single week, week in, week out. What I have a question about, and I know that it's highly unlikely, do you think that there's a possibility with the high-profile openings of Florida and LSU, and I'll even throw Auburn in there too, because Auburn is one of those special teams in the SEC. No disrespect to Arkansas. No disrespect to Arkansas, because I think they'll end up getting someone good too. Do you think there's a possibility that someone could try to poach Beamer away from South Carolina?
So I'm going to tell you this. I think I have a feeling that there's more big things about to happen in college football. Okay. I think there's going to be at least 1 or 2 more big names that are either going to resign or they're going to get fired. Okay. Dabo Swinney, I don't know how he's still at Clemson next year. He still can't stop running his mouth about he's talking to his ADs in the back of the room, and he's saying, I guess I could get fired, right? He's making a joke about it. That didn't work. Brian Kelly came from Notre Dame, okay, like you said. His when the start of his firing was when he came up with a fake Cajun accent and insulted every LSU guy out there. And it's SEC guys like, Xavier, if somebody walked in from God knows where and started talking with a Southern drawl and acting like he was one of the boys, you'd be like, nope, that ain't gonna work for me. That's not how it works in the SEC. Dabo, I still have a weird feeling about Steve Sarkisian. I think when somebody said, he was through, put it out there, he wants to be an NFL guy, whatever. I think that when people say, no. When there's smoke, there's fire.
There's fire.
I think there's something about that too. I think that the high level of stress at Austin, I'm not saying, but he may be thinking, I don't want to do this, and this is a lot for me. And remember, he had problems beyond the football field. So,
Yes.
I mean, so this is not necessarily just a football thing. It could be like, I don't need this pressure. It crumbled me as a person before. I can't let it happen to me again. So that might be where you see it come from. It could be just his own mental health might be at stake at this point. But I still think there's that one of those two things may or may not happen. And in regards to and then the shakeups are going to be everywhere at that point. I mean, just everywhere at that point. I think Kentucky fires Stoops if he has a bad rest of this year, because don't forget, he basically was out the door saying, "I'm going to Texas A&M, guys. See you later." And they went, "No, we didn't give you the job yet." And he had to go back to Kentucky, and he has not performed well since then. So Kentucky's a job that's eventually out there as well. And again, if somebody gets pilfered from Missouri or Vanderbilt, there's more jobs to be had. So, man, it's going to be
half the conference. Half the conference, guys. Think about that. There's a real possibility that in a 16-team league, 8 coaches could be replaced.
Right. And that's why you look up at Ohio State right now. They're kind of with a big smile on their face, say, "You guys just go do your crazy crap down there. We're going to just keep going undefeated up here. We got to beat Indiana and see how it would go." But yeah, I mean, there's a lot there, and I think the conference likes to sort of this is sort of how they are. You know, it's like a soap opera. Who's going to get the next guy, and who's this guy, and who's worth this much. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to make some guys very, very rich when they hire him as coaches, because they're going to hire him away from somebody, and money's going to be the lure. The only reason Lane Kiffin leaves Mississippi is for money. Right. There's no other reason why. I mean, Mississippi is a brand. He's built it. It's his brand. It's easy to stay there. It's harder to go someplace else. Why would you go? Money. That's what it is. So you'll see money's going to be a big factor in this whole thing.
You mentioned Brian Kelly. I have a theory of where I believe he's actually going to end up next. I think he's going to be the next head coach at Penn State, because I think that's more of his wheelhouse. Midwest football, Big Ten football. I think that's more of his wheelhouse. Now, is he going to be able to yield better results than what James Franklin was able to yield? That remains to be seen, because through no fault of the coach necessarily, you're not Ohio State. And honestly, when they're right, you're not Michigan either. So You're the third best team at best in the Big Ten. And now with the expansion of the conference in the past few years, are you really still the third best team? Because you have to consider Oregon in that equation too.
And it's funny when you said it, because I always forget about Oregon. And this year I was like, oh my gosh, the Indiana Oregon game was like a big deal. I'm thinking, everybody they don't forget about them, but Oregon is sort of trying to find their place, or establish their place in the Big Ten at this point. So you're right. I think Penn State is 4 or 5 down the list, depending on. Don't forget, there's teams like Nebraska that may have a chance to come back to being a top-notch team. There's always the Iowas of the world that they always come somehow they finish with 9-2. Like how they got 10-2? How they get 10-2 all of a sudden? But they're a team as well. So yeah, I could see Brian Kelly, because he's going to land somewhere. Okay, whatever the excuse is, or whatever it's going to be, he's going to land somewhere. But he's not going to land in a place that's going to be like a bridge to the next one. He's got one more job left in him. That's all he's got. And if he picks one, it's going to be a Penn State type of program to pick.
All right, guys, moving along here. Mario Cristobal, once again, is Mario Cristobal. Boy, his November record speaks for itself. They have no business losing to SMU. I don't care if it was on the road. You've got to put that game away. And once again, I mean, the November numbers are staggering. And Miami, with 2 losses, both in the ACC, probably not getting to the title game. I say they're out.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you, Rich. I mean, that's a bad loss that they had on Saturday against an SMU team that was not ranked coming in, and they're still not ranked today.
They lost to Wake Forest the week before.
And we saw what Florida State just did to Wake Forest on Saturday. So yes,
no doubt. And I've never been a big Mario Cristobal fan. I think he's he's
a hell of a recruiter. His game day coaching sucks. How's that?
And we just fired one in Florida. We just fired that guy in Florida. You know what I mean? Because he did a lot of good things, but game day was a problem, and he has game day issues. And I think there's some coaches have philosophies, and I think his philosophy is what you see. Everything's close to the vest, close games. There's in Miami, we know. I mean, we used to talk for all this time about high school football, if you're in Miami, the talent pool is ridiculous. And somehow or another, he doesn't seem to get the best ones. Why are you not keeping some of these kids there? There's 50, 60 of them that should be on that team, and they're just floating all over the place, going different places.
So I actually have a theory for you on that, though.
Okay.
Because I thought about this a couple of weeks ago myself when it comes down to the big three in this state, when it's Florida, Florida State, and Miami, and why when we usually do see the high-profile kids in the state, they'll choose Florida State first, they'll choose Florida, Miami second or third. It really depends on the year or what's going on in the coaching carousel per se.
Right.
I believe for this generation of high school student athletes that we're seeing, especially in football, I believe the reason that is the way that it is because they did not grow up with the Florida that was led by Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow. They didn't grow up with the Miami Canes of 01 and the 90s and they didn't grow up knowing about that stuff. They grew up hearing about the stories of it, but they didn't see it for themselves. Most of them, probably one of their first core football memories is watching Jameis Winston and Jimbo Fisher win a national championship.
Sure.
So it's like we saw that. We actually saw that is possible for it to happen there. It's like we hear you talking about what happened with Florida in 2006 and 2008 and how they could have done it again in 2009. We hear you talking about how great the 01 Canes were and how that's one of the most talent-rich rosters of all time, but we didn't actually see it. So that makes a difference. That's my theory behind that a little. Maybe I'm off a little on it too, but I think there's something to it.
No, there is a lot to it. I'm going to be honest with you. There's a lot to that because even like early in the year with Miami, who was on the sidelines for every game? Michael Irvin, right? Now, we all know we know Michael Irvin. We know Michael Irvin for the Cowboys and with the Hurricanes. These kids don't know who Michael Irvin is,
right?
You know, on the sidelines are like, who's that guy? They have no idea who that guy is, right? And you're 100% right because they don't see anybody that it's reflection for them to say, hey, I want to be like him. Now, because of college football as a whole, you can watch every game, no matter what it is, somewhere on TV you can find who's playing, right? And so now it doesn't seem that far away to go to Ohio State, or it doesn't seem that far away to go to LSU or Texas or wherever it may be. So some of these kids are like, you know what? I don't see it. I don't know what you're talking about. You keep on talking about how great you were. I see those numbers on the board, but I don't see where this is happening.
Where it's relevant today. Yes.
Yeah. So now they're like, and you know, and honestly too, you know, if you were in-state guy, I bring it up like in the 90s, Florida State, and Miami were all in the top 10 the whole season. They had nothing but 80% of the roster were Florida guys. Now it's not so much. You know, now it's not so much because these kids are going like, what? Who? You? Yeah, I get it. You got a nice stadium. Oh, that looks great, but I don't see you winning. I don't see any of your quarterbacks making it in the NFL. I don't see where's your receivers. Who am I emulating? Who's the best receiver that came out of Florida the last couple of years? Ricky Pearsall? I don't, you know, it's like you don't have that attachment. Oh, where's the best receivers coming from? Oh, they're coming from LSU. Or they're coming from Ohio State. And I'm willing to go there. You know, I'll go. I'm good to go. And that's a lot to do with it. I think that you said, who am I seeing? What? Give me the belief. Where am I believing in? You know, you give me all this stuff, but I don't see it for myself. And you're 100% right. Talent's going to go where they think they're going to get the best results for themselves. And if they don't see the results happening, and again, the two programs, Miami and Florida State, we could talk about them as well. But Miami and Florida, two coaches that came out with this sort of very conservative way of playing football. Sort of keeping it close to the vest. Boy, that doesn't look exciting for anybody. Hey, how the best player on the team? What was your stat line? 12 carries, 48 yards, and 2 catches for 15. Nope, that ain't happening. I'll tell you what, it ain't happening in high school either. Promise you that. You know, these kids that are flopping around different places because they know like, hey, I got 1 catch because a quarterback on our team can't throw it more than 10 yards, and I'm a 3-star and I can be a 4-star. I'm hanging out for that. And that's what's happening in college too. No doubt about it.
All right. One other note. We already talked about the Florida State Wake Forest game. There really isn't much to talk about that, but I think there's a problem maybe in Orlando because UCF went to Baylor, and guys, Baylor is a mess. Okay, they're having issues themselves, and they lay one 30-3 on you. 30-3. Not sure the Scott Frost era is going to last very long in Orlando, especially if things keep going like this.
No, and something that's always usually said about certain movies is, hey, sometimes there shouldn't be a sequel. Well, this is part 2 of it with Scott Frost, and maybe we didn't need to see a part 2 of it. Maybe it's just time to start completely over, go outside of the organization, go outside of the program and make an outside hire and bring in somebody who's going to bring in a new culture and a new philosophy, because what Scott Frost did the first time around, it worked, but it was a totally different world then too. Yes. It was pre-NIL, it was pre-transfer portal, it was pre all of this other stuff. It's totally different now. And the problem that you run into play here is you are going up against it with everybody else when it comes down to NIL. You're going up against it with everybody else, and the likelihood that schools like UCF are going to have an opportunity to compete with the powerhouses just within this state alone, Florida, Florida State, Miami. But you got to factor in the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States, the Oregons. It's not going to work out too well in your favor, more than likely. So do I also have the guy that can also go in and be a powerhouse recruiter? Right. And you have to go about that differently now too. So we'll see if the Scott Frost era will continue. Maybe they give him one more year to just see if he can try to put his team and his imprint together on this entire thing. But I'm not so sure it's going to work this time around either.
Scott Frost, first tenure at UCF, he inherited a great roster. Rode that thing out for the years he did it. Goes to Nebraska, has just a total breakdown. He had all his problems, whatever it was. He comes back to UCF. Listen, he didn't inherit the same team he had before from the last time. And if you look at Scott Frost, he just doesn't project as a guy who's exuding a bunch of confidence or somebody who really is ready for the job. Also, remember this: when UCF was good back then, they weren't playing in the Big 12. They were playing in the AAC or the AAC or whatever they were playing in. Now you're playing Big 12, and you said they played Baylor, right? But I can promise you that when Scott Frost was at UCF before, he didn't play a team as good as Baylor, maybe but once on his schedule. Now he's got to play Kansas State, Texas Tech, you name all these different schools, Arizona State. It could be all. The schedule's not the same, and everybody knew, hey, when UCF was going to move up to the next level, that it was going to be a little bit of a little growing pains, and it's really showing right now how bad the growing.
They haven't grown at all, guys. They're getting physically beat every week, every year. Meanwhile, the teams they came in with, yes, Houston got upset last week. Yes, Cincinnati took it on the chin from Utah, but they were ranked, and UCF hasn't even been close.
You're 100% right. It's not. It doesn't look good. And when USF is building the program, they're building with a brand new stadium coming soon. Alex Golish is going to be somebody. There's so many jobs open. I can't see it. And Alex Golish made a proclamation not long ago. Hey, my family and I, we love being in Tampa. We're good, just whatever it may be. But and maybe he will, but he's going to get offered something with all these job openings. If he stays at USF and they transition to the ACC or at some point in time another level up, he might be the guy to push him forward. I'm not so sure where Scott Frost is, that he's got the ability to get UCF to where they need to be in the Big 12. They're not quite ready yet.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes with that. Tough weekend for the ACC. Georgia Tech getting beat at NC State and giving up 48. That's not good. Just that in the Miami game. Clemson just continuing to flounder. You mentioned, I thought Dabo was going to be the guy that we were talking about, not Hugh Freeze.
Right.
And I guess he's got enough clout to make it through the year, but the question is, does he last longer than the year? We'll have to wait and see. 1 Ohio State and 2 Indiana, both rolling. Guys, I don't know about you, but I want that Big Ten title game to be Ohio State and Indiana in the absolute worst way. I'd love to see that game. And I wouldn't, the way things set up, they're going to be set up to maybe rematch down the road as well.
No, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And if it is the Big Ten title game, one thing I want to say right now to folks out there who might not be familiar with what's going on with Coach Cignetti and what's happening with Indiana, don't be surprised if they go in and they push Ohio State around a bit the way that they haven't been pushed around this season, or dare I say even pull off what many would view as an upset. I don't necessarily see it happening like that, but I will say I also didn't see Indiana necessarily beating Oregon, and that's exactly what happened.
6 weeks ago, if you told me that the Indiana play Ohio State, I said, "Oh, forget. I don't want to see that. It's going to be that they're going to trounce them." The Indiana I saw play against Oregon, that team was physical, and Oregon's always about speed. You know, they hear how fast Oregon they run. Indiana was faster than them. They were stronger than. They were the better football team across the board. Coaching, everything. They got beat. Okay, and I was like, wow. And then to come off that, I'm like, well, did they come off that game and they lay an egg? No, they just went out and started smoking people.
They're killing people. They are absolutely
UCLA was the flavor of the day for what, 2 weeks, and they said enough of that. Bam, I was into them. They were out after that. So yeah, I will tell you that I'm looking forward to it. I mean, obviously Xavier and our SEC guys, like, you know, hey, this is not what we want to hear, but yeah, they're the two best teams in the country right now. There's no doubt about that.
All right, games this week. There's a Thursday night game. USF hosts UTSA. UTSA just got done putting a stamp on their season with a pretty big upset.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, they are pretty good. There'll be a lot of scoring in that game.
Yeah.
Yep. Friday night, UCF hosts Houston. That's probably the least attractive of the Friday night games. USC hosts Northwestern. USC's got to keep winning to have a chance. And Tulane and Memphis, that's a game that's going to go a long way to seeing who might be going to the AAC championship game. I can't believe Memphis is a touchdown favorite in that game. Tulane's coach has been the one that's been most linked to the LSU job. So very interesting.
After what happened last week, I would not be surprised.
Yeah. And I'll say, but Pearsall, the coach, it's a little gimmicky what he does down there. You know what I mean? I'm not so sure that gimmick is what LSU wants. You know what I mean? We'll see. But I'm watching him. We watch because the two Venice kids are on the team, so I get to watch the two receivers. And again, it's a lot of moving parts. That kind of a little dependent on quarterback being mobile, that kind of thing. I'm not sure LSU's built for that, or maybe they want that, but we'll see. I mean, he's definitely one of the guys who's on the top of the list for getting a job somewhere. That's for sure.
The game's on Saturday. Miami hosts Syracuse, and their backup quarterback should have no problems getting back on track. They're favored by more than 4 touchdowns. Florida State and Clemson at the beginning of the year, that had a chance to be maybe the noon kickoff on ABC. It's a 7 o'clock ACC network game now, and Clemson is favored in that game by a couple points. And Florida is at Kentucky. If Florida's going to make anything of their season, they're going to have to beat the Wildcats. And that's your SEC network game at 7:30. Interesting. It's been the SEC on ABC every Saturday, but the early game this week, BYU and Texas Tech, 8 versus 9 matchup in the Big 12, and Texas Tech is favored by 10.5. BYU has been getting disrespected all year long as far as the point spread goes. Their coach, he's got an easy job. 10.5, really, guys? Let's go out and do this. And I'm actually looking very forward to that game. That could go a long way to determining who's in the Big 12, or it could just be a preview of what the Big 12 championship game is going to be in a few weeks.
Could be. Yeah, no doubt. I like BYU. I'll take that all day. With you're going to give that many points to BYU. They've been a steady team all year. And everybody thinks that BYU is like this, like, I don't want soft as a weird word. They're not. They're brutal. They hammer people. I mean, and I'm thinking, like, everybody think they say, like, oh, BYU tosses it around. It was a nice little story, whatever. No, that's a no bull football team right there. They play tough football.
No, I agree with you 100%. I agree with you right there 100% on that, John.
Yeah, and the fact that they go on missions and come back as like 24 and 25-year-olds, something to be said about that, being very physical. It goes well with their brand. Texas A&M's the middle game at Missouri. We sure wish Probala didn't get hurt in that game a couple of weeks ago. Texas A&M, solid touchdown favorite. We were all waiting. I know I am for that clunker that Texas A&M is going to throw in there at some point. Is it going to be all the way to the Texas game? I don't know, but I think they have no problem taking care of Missouri here. And obviously this was predetermined and it's now changed. LSU and number 4 Alabama. Bama's only in a 10.5 point favorite in that game. The way LSU's been playing, It's gonna be tough for them to even hang in this game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know about it either. I mean, Nussmeier still got something to prove. You know, he was obviously a top number one draft pick kind of guy. Maybe they're motivated with that. Maybe you get this, like I said, as being a Florida fan, obviously, maybe you get motivation because it's Alabama. I'm sure they're going to play as much as good as they can. But LSU just looked as dysfunctional as I've ever seen them this year. Really no answers for anything. Never really got on track. Even when they won some games, it never looked right. So I'm not so sure that I fear for LSU fan that they might have just a total collapse. I think this could be like a just push in moment, and if Alabama goes out there and beats them by 30, I could see LSU sort of like saying like we're good, you know, that kind of thing. But we'll see what happens.
You agree, Xavier?
I do. Alabama's been on a mission ever since they lost to Florida State in week 1 to really show folks that, hey, we are a lot more than just what we were in the Nick Saban era. And they've been proving it week in and week out with Coach Kalen DeBoer and what they've been out there doing on the field. They really made that statement when they went to Georgia and they beat the Bulldogs for the first home loss that Georgia had in 6 years coming into that game. But, I agree. Listen, you're right. Nussmeier, he still does have something to prove. He still has a chance to be one of the top quarterbacks taken in the draft, but it's so much dysfunction happening down within that program right now. I think they still make a bowl game, but to me, what it feels like is this is okay, let's just get through the rest of the season type of thing, and we will reset once we start going in the direction of hiring our next athletic director, hiring our next head football coach.
Yeah, no doubt.
And the governor has put his resume in, by the way.
Well, he's running the show basically at this point. Yeah.
Wow. All right, that's it for college football. The 941 Sports Zone, again, a presentation of Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida. We certainly do appreciate them jumping on board with us. Give them a call, 941-251-4257. 941-251-4257. Weather's getting better, guys, down there. I know it's getting a lot cooler. Time to get that roof taken care of before we get into the really brutal months of winter. And I say that
take care of it now.
Firmly planted in cheek. I might not see 50 again until, I don't know, March. We'll see. Anyway.
I struggle with 62 this morning, Rich, just to let you know.
Struggle. The struggle is real. All right, NFL yesterday, no Bucks. They were on the bye. No Jets. They were on the bye. A lot of teams on the bye. The games that were played, boy, what a difference a week makes. Last week was blowout central. I think there was one close game, and that involved Cincinnati. Well, there was another close game. And again, it was involved in Cincinnati. And again, Cincinnati's defense. Got to feel, and I know you're not the biggest Joe Flacco fan, John, but he did everything he could yesterday. And that defense is just –
He's done a lot.
We're going to give up 600 points this year. Think about that for a second.
He's done a lot. I give him a lot of credit. He's an older guy. He's doing a great job what he needs to. He got great receivers to throw to. But like you said, this week was interesting to me because it really showed, you know, the parity that's in the NFL. Okay, because these games, like maybe on paper, a few of them like, oh, this shouldn't be close. This team is playing well, man. Right to the wire, all these different games. It just you see how it's going. And I'll tell you what, with the NFL too, with the longer season, it's going to be the team that's the healthiest of some of these teams that are going to be the ones that win. It's an attrition thing with this stuff. Look at the Commanders last night; their season's over. You know, that's a tough break right there. But you watch.
What is he doing in the game in a 31-point game in the fourth quarter, guys? Come on.
That's the question I have too, Rich.
Dan Quinn had got a little bit of heat about that. They're like, you know, what were you thinking there, buddy? You know, there's no reason for that, especially the style of football he plays. But no, I look. I mean, going down the list of all the games and watch what I watched last night or yesterday, I should say. Yesterday was the should be the banner for why you have the red zone to watch, because every game was close. No one game was way better than the other unless you had a rooting interest in one team or another, and you know, and they were all good close games. And the wins were like Pittsburgh won their game they shouldn't have won. You know, Minnesota beats Detroit. That was that was an upset.
There.
You know, Denver comes
Carolina.
back. Carolina beats Green Bay, right?
Just took a 40-9 beating by Buffalo, and they go 2 Green Bay. By the way, Green Bay deserved to lose. Those uniforms were hideous. Hideous.
Yeah.
But
and
give
the
Carolina
Falcons
credit for getting up
extra
off
point.
the mat. Yep.
The Falcons on an extra point again, right?
Yeah.
Against the Patriots.
Third
and the
kicker of the year. Our additions are up. Can either of you guys kick? You could probably get a job.
Yeah, 6 in a row for the Patriots. Who thought any of this was going to happen?
Yeah.
It really has been interesting to say the least. But it is, again, it lends itself to that idea that, man, you got a chance. You got a chance to grow, get better. And the NFL, again, that's why it's the product that it is, because every week there's exciting football games, guys making plays. It makes the day. All these Sundays that it's must watch. It's hard to be away from the television set on Sunday. It really is.
Xavier, who's your team, buddy?
So I am a Steelers fan, but I'm also a realistic fan. I'm from Georgia, so I support the Falcons, but I don't have expectations for them. And it was long before 28-3 that I fell into this boat with them. It honestly was the NFC Championship game 4 seasons prior against the 49ers when they had a 2-touchdown lead there and they lost that game. Right. But I'm realistic when it comes to this stuff. Aaron Rodgers is doing everything he can to keep the offense afloat in ways that it hasn't been for years now. But they have the oldest defense in the league, and it's showing. So things are going to have to change in that department. As far as the Falcons go, I don't understand how you have 2 running backs like Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, and you just refuse to give them the football.
Yeah, what is going on there?
I mean, they made a declaration, and rightfully so, that Bijan Robinson might be the best football player in the league, and they do nothing with him. What are you waiting for? I mean, like, guess what? His second contract's coming up soon. He's going to get $1 kajillion from somebody, and you're going to say, like, well, he's a nice player for us. He barely got 1,000 yards. It's just, I don't see what's going on there. It's a little confusing. And then they kind of screw up at the end of games and sort of make little mistakes here and there. It just doesn't look right for Atlanta. They've got a lot of potential right there. I think Michael Penix has shown he's an NFL quarterback at this point as well. So it's interesting. It is. And week to week, you're going to have upsets. Week to week, you're going to have this stuff like that. But when you see certain situations happening over and over and over again, then that's time for a change at some point in time.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you. You're a Falcon fan, Xavier. The last 3 games certainly do not look good on Raheem Morris at all.
No, they don't. But I'll be honest with you guys. I was ready for them to move off Raheem Morris last season towards the end when they go to Washington on Sunday Night Football, and he didn't know how to utilize his timeouts.
Correct.
Yeah. And Raheem Morris, when he was with the Buccaneers, one thing I found it's a little bit of, you see it in a lot of situations, but the players call him Raheem. There's a little bit of that. We're all in this together, but there's got to be a leader. There's got to be a coach. And I sometimes wonder if he doesn't want to be the coach. He wants to be one of the guys. That's great when you're a position coach or a coordinator potentially, but when you're the head coach, you've got to demand that type of respect. And I didn't see it with the Buccaneers, and I'm kind of seeing the same results from Raheem at Atlanta. Win some games, build some talent. Seems like the culture is fun. But how much do you win in that culture? I don't know, and I think he might be. Maybe he's not made out to be a head coach, and sometimes people they're not the guy. But I don't see where he comes across as that no bull leader kind of guy.
Guys, 100% agree with you right there, because it's interesting you say that, John, because I remember when he first got the job in Atlanta, guys like Gerald McCoy, who he had been coached by in Tampa, they kept saying, "Oh, I'm so happy that Raw got this opportunity. Right. Raw's going to do great here. Raw's going to be." But when you hear players who were with the Patriots talk about, they always say Coach Belichick.
Yes.
Or with the Steelers, Coach Cowher, Coach Tomlin. They don't call him Mike. They don't call him like. You're right, Rich. It's not that the respect level isn't there, but the command in the room doesn't feel like it's there.
Right. Right. And that's the lead that no matter what situation is, the lead football, NFL, top NFL teams, winning teams, coach and quarterback, right? It's a big deal. And there's always respect. If those guys, kills me to bring up Brady and Belichick, but Brady was the guy. No doubt about it. Belichick was the coach. No doubt about it. Did they butt heads because they're both big leaders, but you needed that leadership. Brady was taking care of his guys, making sure they're motivated, and Belichick was making sure all the rest of them was taken care of. And then you win with when that is your direction. That's what's leading you. That's how you win.
Brady still doesn't call Coach Belichick Bill. He calls him Coach Belichick, even afterwards.
It's what it is.
I think your point is very well taken.
This is a horrible analogy, but you don't call the pastor, junior or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's certain things you like, fathers, whatever about you have respect for what the title is, and you can be friends. You can talk and be on the same page with each other. But you have to know that when the time steps up, that's the guy who leads the team. Bill, when you run out with the team, who's the guy leading him out? The head coach. He's not in the back, right? He's not hanging out with the other guys in the back of the locker room, coming out with the middle of them. He comes out first, and that has to be the culture all the way through. You're the guy. You're the leader.
Guys, the more things change, the more they stay the same. It's a regular season game, so Buffalo beats Kansas City. We'll get to January, and it probably is going to turn around, although it looks like if they do meet this year, it's probably going to be in Buffalo. Another big game for Josh Allen. I heard a stat today that's kind of sick. Josh Allen now has 77 rushing touchdowns in his career. The great Barry Sanders had 99 touchdowns in his career.
He has more than Earl
Could you
Campbell.
see a scenario where Josh Allen has more rushing touchdowns than Barry Sanders? Really?
It's possible, but I'm going to say no. And the reason why is because the older he gets, the less that those rushing touchdowns will probably continue to happen. The older he gets, the more he'll actually be back in the pocket, but I wouldn't completely rule it out.
Well, the fact it's going to get close is amazing.
For the much respect as I just gave the Patriots, I'm going to give a lot of disrespect to the Bills. I don't think Sean McDermott is the guy to lead this team anywhere, and I think Josh Allen is a ball hog. Josh Allen likes Josh Allen a lot. He likes himself a lot, and everything he does is about him. But I'm telling you, what happens with him is that I'll use John Elway and Dan Marino as my two dominating. Marino's the best quarterback I ever saw as far as what he could do with arm talent. Just ridiculous, right? What did he win? Because it was about Dan Marino. He was dog cussing all his players all the time, and he's angry all the time and everything else like this. John Elway, winning games, couldn't get over the hump until he realized that, hey, I need to hand the ball off to this guy here. I need to throw the ball to this guy here. I need to be a facilitator, not the guy, not this look at me kind of guy. And Josh Allen has not gotten over that. He can't help himself. There's a reason why, I'll say it all the time, there's a reason why he was not highly touted out of high school. He didn't turn 6'6" last week. He's been a big, strong-arm guy from California. He went junior college, Wyoming. That's where he played football for a reason. And sometimes guys are uncoachable. Sometimes guys are immature. He has done very well. He is a very talented quarterback. Don't get me wrong. But, man, one game he's going to get hit, and it's going to be career-ending, or it's going to be something's going to happen. And let's hope it doesn't happen before he has a chance maybe to win one. But the two of them, it doesn't add up in the formula that I'm used to seeing winning. Could they? Yes. But I don't think it's a thing that's sustainable.
Xavier?
It's okay.
All right, we'll just move on then.
So I agree. I agree with him in terms of Sean McDermott not being the guy, but saying that Josh Allen is a ball hog, I kind of have a hard time agreeing with that because
that's fine.
What exactly does he have around him on the perimeter? Now here's what I will say. The game plan changed in the fourth quarter yesterday in ways that could have cost them the game if their defense didn't come up big.
Right.
You're handing the ball to James Cook. He's getting good yardage. He's picking up first downs, and then you put it in the hands of Josh Allen, and it ends up being a dead drive.
Right.
Okay, what are we doing here? It's like, hey, you got Cook going here. It's like, let's continue to use him, and let's chew up this clock, and let's end the game the right way. Now, ultimately, they did win the game, but it's small things like that. It's like, hey, if you don't do that in January, that's not the same Kansas City team you're going to see in January. No. And you know that's not the same Kansas City team that you're going to see in January.
I'm not saying Stephon Diggs is the greatest teammate in the world, but he couldn't be on the same team with Josh Allen, because he will go to Josh Allen and say, why didn't you throw the ball to me all the time? Because Josh Allen said, you know what, I'll just run it for 9, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. You know what I mean? And I'm not, again, can you learn? Absolutely, he can learn. Absolutely, at some point in time, he can piece it all together. But like you said, I know you're exactly what you're talking about in that game. They were run down the field, 1, 2, 3 passes in a row, didn't get anywhere, got sacked or whatever happened, and next thing you know, Chiefs got the ball with a chance to tie. And that's what happens. These games are always close. And listen, does he blow out certain teams? Yes, I get all that. And I grant you, he's the MVP of the league, deservedly so. But I'm talking about winning consistently, championships. Is that where your head's at? Because I know that a lot of championship quarterbacks, look, it took Matthew Stafford to go to, he had to go somewhere, figured it all out. He was everything to Detroit, and he fit right in with the Rams. And he had great years, but it wasn't like it was all on Matthew Stafford. So there's a lot of guys, and that's just the recent one that came to my head. But it really means a lot to be that guy and to be the leader.
Guys, Denver has won their 6th straight game, just like New England. Yet I'm more of a believer of New England at this point. Denver seems to be doing it with smoke and mirrors, and Bo Nix. Whereas I think that Drake May, I've seen the progression of Drake May. He drops the ball right in there. He's playing extremely well. Him and Coach Vrabel get along extremely well. I'm not seeing that. Nix is pulling out games in the fourth quarter, but Denver to me looks like this year's paper tiger, if you will. And they got Kansas City now. They got fortunate yesterday that Kansas City lost, but they got to play them twice. That division is far from over.
Yeah, and especially considering that the Chargers also lost Joe Alt yesterday to another high ankle sprain. It looks like it is. It's like your offense is predicated upon being able to have those guys in the trenches. Joe Alt, and they already didn't have Rashawn Slater for the entire season coming in. So we'll see how things continue to shake out there, because Herbert is as phenomenal as a quarterback as you could have of anybody in this league, talent-wise. But when I think about the Broncos this year, you're right, Rich. I do look at them almost very similarly to what the Minnesota Vikings were a year ago.
Yes.
It's like you ended up having this great record at the end, but when it's time to actually play against somebody who has a similar record or that we know is also of that caliber, you're not even on par with them at all. So, and what was even more concerning for me with Denver is once CJ Stroud goes out of the game, okay, you're supposed to start blowing the doors off this team now.
Right.
CJ Stroud was the only reason that anyone would even pick Houston to have a chance to win that game. Once he goes out, okay, you're supposed to pick it up a notch. And we didn't see that happen, even though they ended up winning the game. They barely ended up winning the game. So I'm with you right there 100%. But it doesn't surprise me that Drake May's having the success that he's having this year either, because Josh McDaniels, he might be a lousy head coach, but he's an excellent offensive coordinator. Never forget that Tom Brady went to that next level when Josh McDaniels was inserted in there as the offensive coordinator. Obviously, once Randy Moss came to the team as well, and he finally had that surefire number 1 wide receiver, but it was with Josh McDaniels that we saw Brady go to that upper echelons level, just performance wise.
And in both cases, on both teams, you talked about Josh McDaniel, but I'll talk about Sean Payton with Bo Nix. Sean Payton, I think, is a genius in regards to how he runs his offenses. And he had another guy who could play just a lot like Bo Nix, and that was Drew Brees. They had that sort of like they work well together. I think Bo Nix is coachable. I think Bo Nix has had a lot of experience. He played 6 years in college, so he had a lot of game help with him as well. I think Drake May's had a little bit more learning curve to be done there, but I think Vrabel will protect him, and so will McDaniels with the running game and getting them and playing good defense. That's why I think the Patriots have a little more upside. I think Bo Nix, like you said, he's got a ways to go with certain things, and Peyton might be throwing a little magic pixie dust out there and getting some things done. Patriots over Broncos, but I think both teams are flawed in some ways. But those coaches, man, they can go a long way with those guys if they get it right.
All right. Let's look ahead real quick to next week. The Thursday night game is Vegas at Denver. Got to think the Broncos are going to get that one. New England at Tampa Bay next Sunday, 1:00. I think the stadium is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 50-50. I personally, living up here in Massachusetts, know of a dozen people that are going down for the game that were able to secure tickets. This is a pretty big game for both teams. New England's on a roll. Tampa Bay's coming off a bye. They didn't look good against Detroit. They really didn't look good against New Orleans, even though they got the win. The bye came at a perfect time. If Tampa Bay's going to contend in the NFC, they've got to find a way to get this game.
No, I agree with you 100% right there. And the biggest thing is, are you going to be able to get some of your key guys back healthy? Obviously, Evans is out until at least towards the end of the regular season. But can you get Godwin back? Can you get Bucky Irvin? Them not having Bucky Irvin has completely changed some dynamics of that offense because they cannot run the football the way that they've been able to run it. And obviously not having Chris Godwin or Mike Evans out there you've had to make Emeka Egbuka your wide receiver one, and it's a totally different game plan for him now because now those other guys aren't out there on the outside that they're going to be double teaming for that allow him to break open and have the plays that it is that we saw him having in the early part of the season. I'm curious to see if Tez Johnson can continue to take the steps that he's been taking, though, because if he can, it can help open that offense up even more. But the key for the Bucs for me is they got to get some guys back healthy.
Yeah, I totally agree with that because health-wise, the bye couldn't have come at a better time for them. They really needed to get sort of cleaned up a little bit with their health. But I'll say this game's going to be very interesting to me from one standpoint. How does Baker Mayfield match up against a kind of a Mike Vrabel-ish defensive setup? I think Vrabel's going to throw a lot at him, knowing he's got some guys that are hurt, maybe not all his weapons, and see how Baker does because this kind of a game, this kind of a setting is how Baker needs to respond when the playoffs come. I think the Buccaneers will be in the playoffs, but there's going to be times where you're going to play against a team that's going to take away your best guy. They're going to do this. They've been down that road. They're going to have these good defensive games against him. Baker, for as good as he's been, and he's been really good. I wasn't really always convinced about him, but I am now. Let's see how he plays in a game like this. I think it's going to mean a lot to see. Even in a loss, I'd like to see how he plays. If he plays up to par or plays up above, maybe he's where he's supposed to be. Because I think he's the key to their success if they're going to move forward and get deep into the playoffs this year.
Xavier, you get early morning football on Sunday in Germany. Atlanta is at Indianapolis. And the Colts are going to be spitting fire after losing in Pittsburgh yesterday. Good luck to the Falcons in that game. That's the Germany game at 9:30. Interesting, the NFC West teams collide with each other. Arizona's at Seattle. Boy, Seattle's really looking good. You know, they lost that one game to Tampa Bay, but they have looked tremendous. They blew the doors off of Washington on Sunday night. And the Rams at San Francisco. San Francisco's not getting enough credit. They've been banged up like crazy, especially on defense, and they're hanging in there somehow, some way. Mac Jones, who couldn't guide the Jaguars to a win last year, is 5-1 as a starter for the 49ers, and the Rams are playing as good a football as anybody. Those two games, those four teams, that to me is the most interesting thing, along with the Bucs game next week.
No, I agree with you there 100%. Man, Mike McDonald was the one person that looks like Baltimore should not have let out the door.
Yeah, no kidding.
That defense has not been the same since he left out of there. And I know that the Ravens have always been known for what they do with their defensive culture. Sometimes it's not always easy to keep that revolving door going if you just let certain people out of the building. And the Mike McDonald effect is day and night. You see what he did in Baltimore with that defense, and you see how he's come to Seattle and he's transformed that defense. I heard a stat last night that said Leonard Williams is playing the best football of his career. And I'm like, that's amazing because he's been in the league for nearly, if not a decade now, with being with the Jets, being with the Giants, and now this is the season. And he's been an impact player everywhere he's been too.
Yeah,
but
no doubt.
They have guys on that Seattle defense who they're filling in for guys right now because you have some guys out injured and they're still out there getting after it. You didn't have Cooper Kupp out there as a receiver last night, and Horton just absolutely torched the Washington secondary. And Jackson Smith and Jigba, there's an argument for him as the best wide receiver in the league this year.
Mm-hmm. And he was probably the fourth or fifth guy of all the Ohio State guys that came out at one point in time as far as you compare them all together. He's been the steady guy. He really has been. Olave's been pretty good. Obviously, Garrett Wilson as well. But he's been the one that he's sort of from day one seemed very comfortable in the NFL. And then with the guy from is in Arizona. His dad played for the Colts.
Harrison.
Oh, Harrison.
He's supposed to be even better, but we haven't seen it as much as him. The Seattle guy is the guy.
Well, there's Jacoby Brissett's throwing him the ball, and Kyler Murray certainly has not been what everybody thought Kyler Murray was going to be. The Sunday night game next week, Pittsburgh at the Chargers. That's a big game because the way Baltimore is going, Baltimore has a game in Minnesota. That's their toughest game in the next 5 or 6. Baltimore's actually the betting favorite, even though they're 2 games behind the Steelers. They're the betting favorite to win the division. Part of that is because their schedule is very soft for the next several weeks, while Pittsburgh's got games like this at the Chargers. And, the Pittsburgh defense is going to be highly tested in that game. And then next Monday night's game looks like it's going to be a doozy. Philly back in action at Green Bay. Green Bay coming off that stinker against Carolina. That'll be a tremendous thing. And guys, listen, the trade deadline's 4:00 Tuesday. I look for a lot of action. There are a lot of teams that really need to shore up stuff. And after yesterday, there's several extra teams that are selling. Cincinnati, Houston. There's probably 11 or 12 teams that should be in complete sell mode. And you should be able to go out and get yourself what you need to make a playoff run. As a Bucs fan, I need Jason Licht to make a move or two.
Yeah, because Howie Roseman has already started that process this morning.
3 moves already. 3.
Yeah.
Jalen Phillips from the Dolphins. I heard that one first. Yeah.
Well, no, that's the last one. He did 2 last week. They're moving.
Smart. Why stand still? You go to a championship, that's how you're going to do it. You follow the baseball model. If you really think about it, trade deadline means a lot in baseball because you can get that one guy you need in the bullpen or a bat or whatever. Now it's I need a receiver and I need a rush end, and you can go find them because guys are going to say, I don't want to pay this guy next year. Get out of it now while we can, especially in a real rebuild situation. So there's no doubt about that, and smart GMs are going to do that. And you're right, Buccaneers need a couple pieces. I think they know what they can go out and get them if they want it.
Yeah, they need to get another edge rusher, especially if Hassan Reddick's going to be out for a little while. What do the Steelers need, Xavier? Obviously, they've started to get a little old on defense. That defense has struggled a little bit. They could probably use an edge rusher on the other side of T.J. Watt.
They could definitely use an edge rusher on the other side of T.J. Watt. But even just going beyond this season, they need to start getting some draft capital. They need to get some more draft capital to accumulate to start replacing some of those older guys who are going to be going out there. I don't know how much tread Cam Hayward still has left on the tires.
Yeah, he looked tired yesterday at the end of that game. He did look tired, yeah. I will say this, too, about I have a bunch of friends of mine are Steeler fans. O-line is not where it used to be as well. I think it's good. I can see some O-line capital maybe as well, but you're right. They need draft picks because they don't not necessarily if they can plug some holes, they'll keep on. There shouldn't be a big drop off is what I'm saying. They think they can fill some holes, do some things right. Obviously, how long is Rodgers going to be there? That's a gigantic question for the Steelers. So those are things that you need draft capital maybe to move people around to get where you need to be to get that next guy if that is the case.
All right, let's move on. World Series. One of the best ever. I don't think we're out of line. Tremendous series. Give it up for the Dodgers. Had to win 2 in Toronto. Found a way to do it. Listen, if Yamamoto starts next year on the DL, it's worth it. This guy was unreal. Talk about the most deserving. He should have been unanimous MVP. I don't think there's any question about it. To win Game 6 and the next night pitch 3 innings and win Game 7 is incredible, but hats off to LA.
Yeah, winners find a way to win. It's incredible because you look at the fact that if Will Smith's foot is just 1 second late on the plate, they score that winning run, and Toronto is winning the World Series, and they're partying like crazy right now in Canada. And this is where you have to give Dave Roberts credit too, because he knew when to make certain moves in the game to make the certain adjustments that need to be made. Pages makes that catch.
Yes.
Pages wasn't even a starting outfielder in that game.
Put him in that inning.
In that inning. And he makes arguably the most important catch of the century so far, saving their season, because Kike Hernandez was not going to be able to catch that ball.
He was looking up in the air like he was going to do a Willie Mays thing. That was not going to happen. And that's center fielder did right. He's the captain out there in the outfield. You take the ball if you got it. And he did exactly what a good center fielder is taught to do. Go get it. And he saw that ball and he tracked it, and it was great. And you're right about Dave Roberts. I'll give you even more so. Ohtani is there's no words. I mean, as far as the baseball players, he is ridiculous. And they have really good. They have superstars. They won because of the Rojas's and the Smiths,
Will Smith,
and all these guys that are the functioning part of the team. They were clutch hitters. Because you can take Ohtani out of the game, just walk him 5 times like it did the one day.
Exactly.
Right? You can do certain things like that. And to have those guys really step up at the end and be clutch was really, to me, made it more as worthwhile. It would be great to see Ohtani hit a home run and walk off with it. I get all that, but everything leading up to that was all about the other guys. And sometimes you forget about the other guys, and this was their time to shine. And the Dodgers, for as good as they are, payroll being as big as it is, those guys were the nuts and bolts of that championship.
Absolutely. And Rich, you said it earlier. I mean, for me in my lifetime, that's top 3 in terms of World Series that I've seen. The only other 2 that come close to topping it, maybe 2011 with the Rangers and the Cardinals, because that was an electric 7-game series. We saw there, and we saw moments there too. Yeah, I mean, that arguably was the last great Albert Pujols moment in his prime, or at least in his prime years that we saw in that Game 3 when he hit 3 home runs. Yes. Mm-hmm. And, of course, 2016, the battle of Cleveland and Chicago, who's going to end their drought first? Yeah. Obviously, the Cubs going on to win that series in 7. Those are the only
rain delay after 9 innings, the greatest rain delay probably in baseball history.
Yes.
The Cubs were able to get it together.
And I will say this, if and I know this is ifs or whatever, but if the Dodgers, if this series was the Dodgers and the Red Sox, or the Dodgers and the Yankees, or the Dodgers like that, then you might have been able to, because you get that whole rivalry, old school, those big franchises. That would be the only way for me to see this series getting better from that perspective, because I don't think that either team could have put it out anymore. I mean, that's one of those ones where respectfully you have to tip your cap to the Blue Jays and say, guys, just don't give up, man. That you want to go over and give them a pep talk because it feels so crappy that you just lost that game. But they got to know that they were right to the end with the best team in baseball and just took one situation where they lost. And again, I will tell you this, they need to do a lot. This is baseball market needs to put this out there and pump this thing up. They need to sell everything they possibly can around that series, because baseball could have a real rejuvenation in the near future with that, and some of the decisions they've made in regards to time clock and different things like that for the game. So,
absolutely.
Let me throw some cold water on you guys. At the end of next year, there's probably going to be a strike or a lockout.
Oh, well, baseball gets over that quick.
Yeah, okay.
And it's 162 games. They'll be fine. We'll have 120 games. We'll be okay with it. And I know that, but that's fine. Baseball likes to go on strike. That doesn't bother me. For some reason, it's like, they'll figure it out. There's enough money out there for them.
All right. Well, big congratulations again to the Dodgers. Blue Jays picked a terrible time to go 4 for 26 with runners in scoring position in the final 2 games.
Yeah.
I mean, they were tearing the cover off the ball. And let's give the Dodgers credit. And Dave Roberts, he knew what he had in the bullpen, which was absolutely nothing. You see Blake Snell, you see Yamamoto. He just said, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die with my best pitchers on the mound.
Right.
Tip the cap.
Smart.
All right, lock of the week. We're rolling. And I'm going to tempt the gambling gods here. I'm 5-1. John, the Vanderbilt getting the backdoor cover, 4-2 for you. I'll let you go first, because I've got 2 or 3 in my mind. So if you steal mine, I can go somewhere else.
I told you I had a couple in mind, but I'm going simple as we were talking earlier. If we're going to talk about a lock, I think you take Alabama, given the points. I think they're going to mash LSU. So I'm taking Alabama and giving the points.
Can't argue with that. I'm going to go with the one that jumped off the page of me. BYU getting 10.5 from Texas Tech.
I know you like that game. I know you like that
Texas
game.
Tech might win the game. They might not. And the way you look at games like that where you're taking points, does the underdog have a legitimate chance to win the game? The answer is yes.
To me, that's a pick 'em game. I can't understand 10. Yeah, I don't get it.
Maybe. One score for sure. So,
yeah.
Xavier, you got something that jumps off the page? Or
Yeah, I'm going to say Miami matches Syracuse going back home. They're going to have something to prove. They're upset they lost to SMU, and they're trying to do everything possible to keep their college football playoff hopes alive, even though I think those are done now. But that's my lock of the week.
Gotcha. All right. I took them over Stanford a couple of weeks ago, and it was 7-7 at halftime, and I looked like an idiot, and then they scored 35 in the second half and covered. You have to cover 28.5. But that I agree with you. I think backup quarterbacks, that should be no problem for the Canes. All right, final segment, guys. What's bugging me? And
me
John,
first?
Huh?
So yeah, I'll go first because it came up last week on the John Peacock Coaches Show, and it came up. It's come up in just a lot of conversation around high school football, and the fact that they're trying to go ahead and change the structure of the playoff system for high school football again, with next year looking at potentially a 5A through to rural, and then having this super playoff deal where it's 16 teams go into the playoffs for another whole deal. And some of their logic they have behind it seems a little weird as well. Guys, I get that you want to have teams to have chances to win state championships. I get all that. It makes does it get boring to say like, oh well, St. Thomas won their 11th or whatever. But understand something that there's an easier way to do this. And for some reason, the state of Florida will not want to use the format that's been put in place all over this country. Big high school, private school, public school. Private school, they call it Catholic League, whatever they call it, wherever you may be from. Your private school, you play other private schools to go, and that's your championship, okay? And you can do whatever, you can layer them up any way you want to. And then public schools play for their championship. It's simple as that. Because who was winning these championships? Back 4 years ago when they went suburban and metro, they said there's only been 4 state championships that have been won by schools outside of the metro areas. And two of them were Venice. Right. You know what I'm saying? And the 2 Venice championships. So if that's the case, so is it about the metro area, or is it about the way the schools in the metro area are doing stuff? Because there's a lot of schools in Miami that don't win anything. But who does? St. Thomas, Chaminade, American Heritage, all these different schools. These are pay to play kind of scenarios. They're not IMG, but there's some version of IMG. And it's very simple to figure out. So stop pretending that it's not the case. Stop pretending that somebody else's idea is bad. This idea is all this is about is marketing this to some network so they can show playoff games and make more money off of it. It's not about, oh, we feel sorry for poor Lake Mary or poor, whatever small Port Charlotte, okay, whatever it may be. They don't feel sorry for them. They're looking to look for revenue generation. They want to put that brand out there. And what's the brand? St. Thomas Aquinas. What's the brand? Chaminade. What's the brand? If you really want to make people have a chance to win, then just do what you got to do. It's simple. Private school, public school. Name it whatever you want. Let them all play each other. That's going to get a lot of those metro schools playing each other like you want it anyway. Break it down to so many levels, and you're good to go. This other stuff is just is garbage. It's crap. It's a stupid idea. You have to actually really think like way out of the box to even come up with something like this. It's just, to me, it's like spend less time and just do the right thing. It's not hard. I'm done.
All right. That's good. Got something, Xavier? Or?
Yeah, I'm going to say some of the officiating we've been seeing in college football lately.
Yes.
Now, we know that there was a referee who was suspended as a result of some of the things that happened in the Georgia-Auburn game, and I'm wondering if we need to see more of that, because for me, where it really started to stand out was last weekend when we had Mizzou and Vanderbilt, and there were just some plays, and I didn't have any favorites going into the game in any way whatsoever, but you want to see things shake out the right way. And there were just some calls that were made that were clearly just in favor of Vanderbilt that just made it seem as if, are you trying to do everything possible to help them win this game? The one in particular that stands out for me is there is a play that's called a fumble initially on the field, and they go in and they review it, and there's no clear-cut evidence whether it was a fumble or not. But the fact that you originally called it a fumble, okay, that play should have remained the same. And instead, the call ends up getting overturned, and it's one of those that ultimately cost Mizzou the game. And another play that ends up happening in that game, at the very end, the wide receiver catches the ball on the 1 yard line. I could have sworn, guys, that I saw a horse collar tackle or pass interference of any sort that was not called right there, and it should have been called. Instead, the receiver, he makes the catch. It's on the 1 yard line. Time runs out. That's the end of the game. They should have been given at least one more play as a result of him catching the ball and the penalty to at least put 1 second back on that clock to see if they could punch it in from the 1 yard line. Now, if they don't, that's on them. If they do, hey, good for Mizzou. And a play that happened just this past weekend in the Vanderbilt and Texas game, the 2-point conversion by Vanderbilt that should not have been a 2-point conversion because the ball was clearly not even inside of the goal line as the receiver stretching it out. It's like that ball was clearly short on the 1 yard line, and they call it good. I don't understand how you call something like that good. So maybe there need to be some more officials who are suspended or at least investigated for some of the things that are happening right now in college football, because it's swinging some of those games in directions that they shouldn't go in just simply because it's like, do you know what you're out here doing, or are you doing this on purpose? And you want to trust and believe that as we continue to go down the stretch of the rest of the season, especially as we get closer to the college football playoff, that we're not going to see these things happen. But right now, I'm not so sure.
Yeah. Xavier, I'm going to say something that I heard earlier this week. Coaches are held accountable. Players are held accountable. Officials are not, because the accountability means that when you do something wrong or whatever, where it has a great effect on the outcome of a game and somebody's season, you need to be taken to the woodshed properly. You need to be said, hey, guys, you're out this week. You whatever. And then the SEC, the one guy, he's gone. He's done. He's out. He's not going to be refereeing anymore. But
early retirement.
Right. But accountability is where it's at. And I think that's what you're asking for, is accountability. And I totally agree. They act like it doesn't matter what I do. I'm the ref. I can do whatever I want. And that's why fans get so bent out of shape about it. No, you're there to make the game progress in a proper manner, but it's not up to you to decide who wins the football game. And I think they feel sometimes that it is, for whatever reason.
Yeah, they come to see them instead of the actual
absolutely right
game itself. Who knows? Hugh Freeze could still be employed if Auburn didn't get screwed not once but twice this year.
That's the reason. It's that important. A stupid call could cost somebody his job.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go in a little different direction, guys. What's bugging me is I was watching the baseball coverage before Game 6. But before the Dodgers and the Blue Jays went to battle, and they decided to interview the mayor of Toronto.
Okay.
And she comes on, and what does she do? She tempts the gods. She starts talking about the parade route for what's going to happen. And we all know, listen, you might not be superstitious, but you all know you don't put the cart before the horse. And she's talking about, well, the parade's going to be on this day, and we're going to go down this street, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And stupid me didn't go to my FanDuel account and put everything I had on the Dodgers at that point, because, I mean, that is like, you don't do that. You don't do that. And, but it is Toronto, and I guess maybe when the Maple Leafs are in the playoffs, you can talk about the parade route for them too. They don't
have to do that at all, because they ain't making it anyway.
Exactly. But I'm just sitting there, and my mouth's wide open. I'm going, you're really talking about this? And the fact that nobody talked to her about it, or nobody went nudge, Mayor, Miss Mayor, Madam Mayor, please stop talking right now. Unbelievable.
No doubt.
Did that eventually lose Toronto the games? No. The 4 for 26 with runners in scoring position. The stupid play at the end of Game 6 where how do you get doubled off when the ball's right in front of you and you go too far off of second base. Those are the things that ended up costing the series.
Yes.
But
yes, we
the
know
gods
about.
are always watching.
For all sports,
yes,
about all the jinxes that in the world. Trust me, and it's at every level, every level, no doubt.
Yep. All right, guys, that'll do it. Xavier, we really appreciate your time. We ran over a little bit, but certainly appreciate your knowledge and your expertise, and your giving us a little bit of it for us. We certainly do appreciate it, and certainly best of luck to you. And I'm guessing you're going to be covering the small school playoffs this Friday night for the Friday night game night.
yes, I will be out there, and I can confirm to you because I had communication through text with Coach Hallway.
I saw you on your phone. Go ahead.
They're at Jupiter.
At Jupiter. Okay.
Yes.
Listen, when a parent says something,
Parent was
usually
right.
That's the thing. So, all right, fair enough.
But no, thank you guys for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure. Great to work with you guys throughout the year and the time that we've been able to work with it, and looking forward to more in the future.
Absolutely.
Right.
Same here.
And
No
we'll
doubt.
keep an eye on the Friday night game nights during the playoffs. This is when it really starts getting fun.
Yeah, this is a
really
fun time.
starts
Yes,
getting
indeed.
fun.
Yeah.
So
Yes, indeed.
take it easy. John, ready for the playoffs? Got to wait a couple more weeks, though. Hang in there.
I'll get there. I'll survive.
And no coaches show. Let's tell everybody that
no
watches this. No coaches show this week with Coach Peacock. Really not much to talk about. Xavier, you're a little closer to this. Do the playoff matches come out tomorrow? Because they've been doing it every Tuesday. You think we're going to see something?
Yes, we should see something by tomorrow.
All right. So then next week we'll be able to talk about all the matchups and the way the brackets work out. We're looking forward to that. All right. So that'll do it for this edition of the 941 Sports Zone, again presented by the good folks at Mighty Dog Roofing. Again, 941-251-4257. For Xavier and for John, I'm Spitz. See you guys later.
See you guys.
See you guys.